Welcome to Candid with Claudia, from possibility to reality. I'm your host, Claudia Cabillos. Here, real conversations meet inspiring stories, from bold dreams to powerful transformations. Each episode, we will sit down with remarkable people such as yourself who've turned their vision into reality. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get candid. Well, good morning, everyone. Today we have Mayor Omar Nickerson. Thank you for being here today. In Candid with Claudia, the key word being candid, right? So nothing is programmed here today. I have little cheat sheets in the event that I need help. But, when I was coming here today and getting ready, the one thing that came to my mind is how long I've known you.
It's been a while.
I've known you for a long time.
It's been a while.
And I know you, and I believe I know you. But to the people that don't know you, who is Omar behind that big smile that you show us all the time we see you? Who is Omar?
Well, Omar, I guess, would just be an individual, Miss Claudia, who is someone who wants equality for everybody. I always try to fight for happiness and doing the right thing. I always try to fight for those who may not have a voice for themselves, but at the same time, I try to balance that with things that go on in society and wanting to make sure things are always done correctly. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in that things should be done the right way. So, it's interesting because a lot of times when you do have individuals who will say that, they fight for the small person, they fight for equality, or they fight for the little man. A lot of times those individuals, just throughout history, they throw the rules out of the window. Those the revolutionaries in a way. But I'm a balance between those two because I really do believe strictly in the rule of law and order and organization and things like that. So I'm just a guy that just wants to see everything run the right way, whether it's people being treated equally or people following the rules and following the law. Yeah. I want everything just kind of run right.
Well, there's something to be said about order and following the rules, right? I think that's really important, but we're not going to get into that today. We're not going to get into politics today. And the other thing I always found so interesting about you, when we were both in council together, we couldn't have these conversations, right? Because, it's sunshine and all that, right? So I can't talk to you in private. But I always found it so interesting, your journey. You've traveled so much. While I'm well traveled, you definitely are well traveled, and I think that there are some people that may not know that about you, and some that do. And I think that is definitely not only an inspirational part of who you are, what you've done, because you bring to the table your travel experience, right? Yeah. And what you've learned. So tell us a little bit about that travel experience and what you've used from that to the role that you play today. And then we're going to talk about the role that you're about to start on Saturday.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, yeah, so the majority of my travel especially just came through work and school. So it all starts from school, right? I was always a big nerd, a big wonk. And so I graduated high school at 15 and went to the University of Miami.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And I've known you for a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I went to the University of Miami when I started at 16. And I was there for 3 years, so I graduated at the University of Miami at 19. And I went overseas to the University of Cairo in Egypt. And that was my first master's degree, and that was in world history and geographical studies. And then I got my second master's degree from the University of Damascus in Syria. And that was in international political science and economic development. And then I got my PhD in China, University of Beijing. And so that kind of set the standard, or set the table for kind of what I would be. And I was always interested in politics and culture and world issues and things like that. So kind of just.
Okay. I gotta take a minute here, because how do you, local boy from Miami?
Local from Miami.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Damascus. How did that process even start? Because what if somebody nowadays? I mean, guess what? We're in graduation season. Yeah. I love this time of the year. Absolutely. For social media, because everybody from kindergarten to high school to 8th grade to promotion and all that. Everything's about graduation. I love May about that. Anyway. What was your thought process? Yeah. Were you growing up said, okay, I'm going to go to Syria, or I'm going to go this? How did that evolve?
It's interesting because it kind of, and like I said, we're going to keep the politics for another time, but it kind of came about because I was always interested in history. And something, if you remember when we were young, something that would always come up and it was almost
Young.
like
Wait. But I am young.
We're still young. We're still scratch that. We're still young. But something that always would come up, and it was kind of like a playful term that people would use back then, and nobody, I really didn't understand the depth of it at that particular time. But people would be like, "Peace in the Middle East, peace in the Middle East, peace in the Middle East." And I was like, "What is this peace in the Middle East?" And I was always like reading and watching documentaries, and back then, like it was like the HBO documentaries. I would always watch documentaries and things like that. And so I was like, "What is this peace in the Middle East?" And I started to kind of like look at it further and see about like Egypt, Israel, like Palestine and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I'm really like, I'm really interested in that part of the world. Or whatever. And then when I was in college, when I was at University of Miami between 16 and 19, for one summer, I went over to Israel.
Ah, okay.
And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And when I did that,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So, and that's when I came back that summer, I was like, okay. I was like, I could kind of see like I want to be over there and get a lot of education over there. And so, and the time that I went to Egypt for my first master's, double master's, and Syria for my second double master's, those schools for those particular subjects were like in the top 10 in the world. So it was also, they were great education at that time also. So it just all kind of like came together, just worked out.
And then when you came back to the United States, you were a teacher?
I was a teacher,
You were a teacher.
yeah. I was a teacher.
Where you taught history?
Yeah, I taught history, I taught world history, U.S. history, I think I taught civics. I taught all type of stuff. Yeah. That was all type of stuff. So everything that I do is kind of wrapped around. You know how people say all the time, like, do what you would do for free and just find a way to make money with it. And that way you'll always feel like you'll always be, happy with your job. You'll always be happy and excited to go to work and things like that, so that you don't just go to work for a check, but you're like struggling to get through it and forcing yourself to get through it. So everything that I do, whether it's, now in my political position and things like that, it's all wrapped around like history and politics. Like that, if I didn't have anything, if I was like, if I didn't have a penny to my name, I'd be like the crazy man in the middle of like US 1 of Biscayne, being like, when the car stopped at the stoplight, I'd be like, let me tell you about the Roman Empire. So I was always involved.
I can't believe. Growing up, history was not my thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no. I love English and I love literature. History was not my thing.
Yeah.
But as an adult now, what an appreciation I have for it. And often when people would say, oh, if you could do something differently, what would you do? And I'm like, I would have really probably attended history classes, because probably the one class I didn't like to go towards it. But wow, how important is history? And how, if you don't know it, it repeats itself. And I think that is something that you use in ways on you as you sit in the roles that you sit on, right? And how you're able to at least know you no longer teach, right?
No.
But what an opportunity for the children in your classrooms to have experienced what you know in your travels. And be interested to know what they're doing today. Right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about El Portal. Oh my gosh. Okay. I heart El Portal.
Yes, you do.
I do greatly. What have you found? Actually, you know what? Before I get into El Portal, you couldn't have always been a nerd. Did you play any sports? Please tell us you had some fun in high school.
I actually did not. I'm such a nerd. I mean, think about it. So it's no surprise, and you know this about me, but I was such a nerd. So I've never tasted alcohol in my entire life. I've never smoked anything, drunk anything, not even a drop of alcohol, champagne, wine cooler, whatever. And so I was really a nerd. I never went out. I just strictly just studied 24/7. And as far as El Portal, you would know this because it's interesting when you said you don't teach anymore. And I was about to say, Madam Mayor, when you're the mayor of El Portal, you can't do anything but El Portal. And so for a lot of people that don't know, Mayor Cabillo's the first Hispanic mayor in the history of El Portal. And El Portal, we are the smallest municipality. And the thing about it is with that is that we don't have the luxury of the staff. that the bigger people have, the big boys have. You know, the Monte Gardens, the Hialeah, the city of Miami, the Doral, and all.
We love those mayors.
We love those mayors. Shout out to those mayors. Shout out to those mayors. And when you go to their city halls, you're like, what could be? It's like walking into like Disney World. It's like glass, 3 stories. They have their own offices, Mayor Camillo. It's like
They have their own
They have their own mugs. Candid with Claudia. They have their own mugs. But in El Portal, it's really a full-time job. Whether people are always like, well, what else can you do? I'm like, look, you guys, for a place that doesn't have staff, you can't do anything else. Because you have
if you want to do it right.
If you want to do it right.
You want to do it right.
If you want to be successful, you can't do anything because you have to be, like I said, we don't have staff. So for example, our manager, right? Our municipal manager, our village manager, she doesn't have staff. So for whatever she has to do within that day, you kind of have to take like 25, 30, 40% of her job and be like, okay, well, I'll take care of this stuff. You have to. Like, we just don't have the staff. So, so I've been, full-time there for a long time now. So it's all good.
You ran for office in 2010.
Yes.
2010.
Yes, did. Yes.
So what was that motivating factor? I mean, I knew him in 2010.
Yes,
I knew you in 2010.
Yes.
What was that motivating factor? Was it all that history?
It was about history. It was about, because you remember, there's another, see, all right, you guys, we're going to go inside politics for a second, so just hold on. We're just 1 second. We'll get back to the general stuff, just 1 second.
We'll go back to that in a minute.
We'll go back to that in a minute. But if you remember, and you do, the church situation has always been an ongoing thing. And people saying they're going to come in and develop. We're not going to get to that too much right now, but always. And around that time, there was something else happening where somebody else was going to come in and do something with the church. And I remember I was there, and like I was always involved in history and politics and stuff like that. But I remember just thinking like, man, what is really going on? Like, I really want to get on the council to just kind of learn more about the community because, there's levels to this. And, if you're on the council, you're privy to like much more of like the details of the everyday going on, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're mayor, you're like privy to all the everyday details. And so me living there, as we all still do, I just wanted to be more involved and just to know more of the details of where I live, and so that kind of like just motivated me to run. And then I knew you, and you had ran and you were on the council, and we were doing our thing. And just to let you know, a plug, this is a shameless plug. Mayor Claudia, if she hasn't already, you guys will hear hopefully about her wonderful education in her wonderful school. And I had the privilege of working for Mayor Claudia.
So we go way back.
And let me just tell you, I'll end this part like this. Mayor Claudia may be, and this is no exaggeration, and she knows this, and I've talked to her husband about this. Mayor Claudia, shout out to Colonel No Face. Mayor Claudia may be the best individual for the site of like talent. Because the individuals that have come out of that school and what they've gone to do, when before that people didn't really know who they were, it's like the Jackson 5. It's like you get the all-star group, and then you get the breakouts. Like the breakouts is like, man, there was so much talent in that one group. But that's Miss Claudia. Miss Claudia is like the head of Motown. That song, like the Smokey Robinson, the Diana Ross, the Jackson 5. Miss Claudia like spots all the great talent, and then we all break away and we all go on and do like our individual things, and we all like reach the top of our individual like processes and patterns in life. So Miss Claudia is like, anybody looking for a good scout? Hire Miss Claudia. She'll scout all your best talent. So it's a good thing.
I'm laughing because it's actually really, they always say that if you laugh when somebody's talking, it's because you can truly relate to what they're saying, right? And I see where you're coming from, and I might do that a little bit, right? I'm like, oh, you know how to do that? Come, let's talk.
Let's talk.
But let's go on talent. Miami-Dade League of Cities. If you don't know it, Miami-Dade County League of Cities is a fantastic organization that represents all 34 municipalities. And I had the tremendous honor to be the first Hispanic president of that organization in 2019. And next to me, Mayor Nickerson, two former mayor and current mayor of the smallest city in Miami-Dade County,
Yes.
will now have been presidents because he's going to be sworn in on Saturday. And I'm excited for you, for El Portal, for Miami-Dade County, for the league and everything that encompasses what you're going to be entering soon. But going back real quick, shameless plug. I remember when you talk about scouting, I had Elliot Rodriguez as my MC for the Miami-Dade League of Cities. And I don't know if you remember, but when I was being sworn in, I used all local people from El Portal. And I remember Elliot Rodriguez saying, he goes, wow, El Portal is so talented, because at the time it was our vice mayor, he sung.
Yeah.
Then it was our council person who gave the prayer.
Yeah.
Then it was the judge who lived in El Portal who swore me in.
Yeah.
And then it was a resident who introduced me with the most, now I was talking about Candid. I mean, she's just phenomenal,
Yes.
Shantae Sweet,
Yes,
right?
she is.
She introduced me, and I remember Ellie be like, is there anybody from El Portal that has no talent, right? So I just remember that, and how do you feel? I remember my nerves leading up to becoming the president. I remember the emotions and the excitement of what, and the work that led up to my installation. Your installation is Saturday.
It is.
How are you feeling? What has been going on? What are some of your plans? What can you kind of let us in on as you are going to enter now a new kind of chapter with Mayor Nickerson now being the president of the Miami-Dade County League of Cities, which, if you don't know, it's in a phenomenal organization that does a lot for our community.
Absolutely.
That brings everything back home to keep it local. So
Absolutely. It's actually the premier and pristine organization for Miami-Dade County municipalities. Like, there's no other organization that exists for all the municipalities. It's only the Miami-Dade County League of Cities. It's been wonderful. It's been, I mean, everybody's going to have a good time. Planned it from start to finish. I had to, you have to plan all the details, every detail. From the very beginning, even the cocktail hour, I have performances. So there's no downtime. Even during the cocktail hour, I have Argentinian tango dancers during the cocktail hour. I have a singer, shout out to Cami Liz, who opened up for Demi Lovato during the cocktail hour. I have, that's the cocktail hour. It's not even the main program. I have pretty much no speeches. It's all entertainment. So wherever like I would give a speech or something like that, I found an entertaining way to relay that same information. So let's say if I was going to, if I were to give a speech about my education history, instead of talking about me getting my PhD in China, I have actually, in reality, and this might be the last little secret I give you guys, I actually have, and they arrived yesterday in the afternoon, I flew in about 32 performers from China. That are going to be doing the Chinese dragon and Chinese lion dances and stuff like that during the regular program. So I flew in some people from Africa. I have some people coming in from Venice, Italy. So it's all performances, all show, but it all tells a story. And it's all about like diversity, ethnic diversity, and just like equality and things like that, ethnicity and stuff like that. So it's going to be wonderful.
Well, talk about encompassing kind of like the beginning all the way to where we are today, right? And we started together talking about history and the power of history and the impact history has. And now you're bringing that all on Saturday.
All on Saturday. It's going to be wonderful. I mean, and like my wonderful friend here, who is not only the first Hispanic mayor of El Portal, but the first Hispanic president of the Miami-Dade County League of Cities. I'll be the first Native American president. My dad's black, my dad's African American, my mom's Native American. My mom still lives on a reservation in North and South Dakota. She's Lakota Sioux is what we are. And so I even say, in my president's message that, it's going to be in the book, that they'll pass out. I even talk about how, with this league and this gala, we can't let it leave our minds that this is all taking place on what was Native American land, which we're all on Native American land. And so it's kind of bringing that, also full circle. So it's a good thing.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Talk about fatherhood a little bit. We'll touch on fatherhood as we close. Parenting.
Parenting.
Tell a little bit of your parenting.
Parenting.
You have 2 children you're incredibly proud of.
I have 2 children.
Of which one of them, I believe I held her when she was weeks old, which I will never forget.
As a matter of fact.
I'll never forget that.
And just to let you know.
We go way back.
Mayor Cabillos is a wonderful mother also. So just to let you guys know that. She might talk about me being a great father, but she's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful mother. And so my son Style, right? He went to your school, started out, I'm telling you, all the great ones go to Miss Claudia.
Why are we circling back to Miss Claudia? Who's Miss Claudia?
Who's Miss Claudia? Let me tell you, if your child is not enrolled in Miss Claudia, enroll them today. But so Style, who's a wonderful individual, started out at your school. And yes, you were. So when my daughter Amatista was born, and Amatista is named after my mother, because when I grew up, it was all boys. There was no girl in the household. And my mom, her birthday is in February, and her birthstone is amethyst. So I named.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I named the first girl of the family after my mom. So Amatista after amethyst. So that's where Amatista's name comes from. But yes, Miss Claudia was the first individual outside of the family to hold her.
Yeah, I remember that.
Days old. Absolutely.
I remember that. And now I'm going to see her on Saturday.
Absolutely. She'll be there on Saturday.
I'm going to take that picture. No.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about me on Saturday.
It's all good. But how was motherhood for you?
That is another episode.
Listen, it's all about family. It's all about success. It's all about the success of Candid with Claudia.
We're going to close on one question.
Yeah.
So what is your possibility to reality? That, my possibility to reality is definitely another episode if it's about Claudia, but it's not about me. What has been your vision that you feel you brought to reality?
My possibility to reality, I think it has been, it's a good question. I think it has been fulfilling visions. So it's one thing to say, because you have to think about it like this. When we're all young, every kid in the world, I don't care if you're talking about the US, Australia, England, a country in Africa, every kid in the world has dreams of fulfilling their dreams. Mm-hmm. It rarely happens. Yeah. If you think about percentage-wise, it rarely happens to where there's something that you love, there's something that you are passionate about, you go out and you can actually make a living off of that passion and fulfill that vision that you always have had. And I've been blessed, lucky and blessed that, we spoke in the beginning how I was always interested in history and politics and things like that. So to be able to be successful from it and to be able to use those things and to be monetarily successful also through consulting and my lecturing and stuff like that. It's something that, you wake up every day and it's almost like, and just to be frank with you, it's almost like I've been on vacation every day that I wake up because you set your own schedules. You're not pined to someone telling you when you can do something, where you can do it, where you have to stand, where you have to go, at what time you have to be back. And so that type of freedom is something that I think now more people are getting, Claudia, just because the way that technology's turned, people can now do things like, I can't with Miss Claudia, and do that type of stuff and be successful from it, but it wasn't always like that. So when I was able to have that type of freedom, it was before this technology revolution, I should say. It was prior to that. Therefore, it was something that was rare at that time, and I've always just been blessed and lucky to kind of have that. And I think that happiness of what you and I both share as far as being hard workers and knowing what we want and being dedicated to what we want and focused on what we want and achieving what we want, like Miss Claudia's. And no, in all seriousness, once you do that, it's like, man.
Your possibility can become a reality. And and I believe that this is one of my passions and dreams is that every person has a story, every person has a struggle, and every person has joy, we hope. But if more people like Omar, like Claudia, and whoever else we will invite next, and we don't, we'll see what happens from here. But I believe that people get empowered when they hear from everyday people. Because everyday people are really the ones in the trenches making the difference. And that's really what I want to be candid with, is that anybody can make their dream come true. However, you do have to put the work in. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it happens over time with consistency and discipline. You must be consistent about the discipline you choose. And if the discipline you choose is to be the best at something, well, then you have to be consistent with what is it required. You want to be a soccer player, but you got to practice more hours than anybody else. You know, the goats don't become goats overnight. They really do what it takes day in and day out. And I think a complete clear example is, look how much knowledge you have in history. That didn't happen overnight, it happened over time. And now you're applying what you've learned and you're passing that on. And I truly believe that that is what I've even learned from you in the years that I've known with you, is that you put the legwork in, you put the time in, and your possibility will become your reality. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned. See you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.